Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 48 in the Cobra Jet series, also known as Slither. Now, I did a recent video, part 47, where I demonstrated the Mustang's to Fear updated roll bar. And as I said in that video, I'm very happy with how that fits. However, we will not be putting that in this car. But I do give a credit, shout out to Mustangs to Fear for following up with that problem and correcting it. All right. In a previous video to that one, which was 46, I was working on the fender and the door and all that sort of thing. Now, I went ahead and stripped the paint or primers off of the doors, or the door and the driver's door specifically, and even the passenger door. And I also stripped the entire front fender. I did find some flaws, but it's a solid fender, so I can work with that. I would much rather have dents and dings than rust through, so I can fix that front fender. I still have to weld the bottom edge of the door, finish welding that. That's pretty minor at this point, but I'm moving on to one of the next things that I need to do is the deck lid. Now, you'll see over here, that's the original deck lid, and it is completely unusable. It is rusted through on the bottom, it has a big dent in the back, and we're going to replace that with an aftermarket deck lid. Now, I've run into a few other problems as I was working on this. I was stripping down the hinges for the deck lid, and that went pretty well. I ended up using a wire wheel to make it a little easier. I tried to use a blasting cabinet, but it is so inefficient when it comes to doing these sort of things, having the little blast cabinet from Harbor Freight. If I had a much bigger one, I could probably make it work better, but I'm stuck with what I have. So I used the wire wheel to clean up the hinges, and then I decided, let me take a look at the extensions. So I have the original extensions from this car, and I started sanding down one of the extensions. As I was sanding it down, I started looking at it a little harder, and I realized there is some really bad corrosion in this extension. So let me show you that right now. Well, my fears have been confirmed. I was trying to use these original pieces from the car, and as we all know, there was a ton of rust and corrosion in this car. And as I cleaned this up, I got to this edge, and I started looking at it, and I was like, there's corrosion, or the edge is corroded off. And in fact, I was just trying to push on it a little bit, and pieces broke out. So I can just see the corrosion is on the split, like it goes inside of this thing. And I tried to save this one. I was looking at it. I don't know how well you can see it. I did sand down the edge, but it is still showing corrosion on the split. It's very thin up here at the top. I don't trust it, so I'm not going to use these. When I was first doing the test fit of the trunk lid, I had the original ones that came with my car. So at this point, I'm going to use those, and these are just not going to go on the Cobra Jet. All right, so one of the things that we have to deal with is we have an aftermarket deck lid. And the problem with that is it doesn't have any of the holes in it where it says Mustang. Now, the original deck lid, even though it has a stripe on it, it does have the Mustang letters on it. But the deck lid, I can't even use it as a template because it was hit and the holes are all messed up. But what I decided to do was pull out the deck lid that I received, or I got with my Mach 1. It is an original deck lid. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. And it is solid as can be, and I'm going to use it as a template to put the letters on the aftermarket deck lid. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is the original. It has MU on it, missing the rest of the letters, but it was hit right here. And somebody has done a repair on it a long time ago, but the holes are gone, basically. I did see witness marks of a couple of the holes. I can't use those. And also, the whole bottom of this thing is toast. So you can see all the edges. You can almost pull the center section completely out of this. There is nothing usable on this deck lid other than the latch. All right, so let's set this aside. And what I have here is the original deck lid off of my Mach 1. You can see it already has holes in it for the rear wing or spoiler, and the bottom of this thing might as well be perfect. There's nothing wrong with this deck lid whatsoever, and I'm going to use it as a template of sorts. What I want to do is take advantage of these holes. So I'm going to say these are the original holes, obviously, and I need to find a way to transfer these holes onto the new deck lid. This is the new one. So you can see it's nice. I've used this already. I did a test fit with this. There is some minor adjustments I will be making to this deck lid later on, but it doesn't have any of those holes. But I'm going to take advantage of this one. Okay, the holes that are in this deck lid. I have a drill bit here. This is a number 30 bit. Now, you would say this is as close to an 1/8 inch as you're going to get. They probably make a true 1/8 inch drill bit, but this is a .128. Okay, let me show you this. Original holes in the lower deck lid. This goes into those holes nicely. Okay, so no issue with that. The original one above that, again, it goes in. Now I will say some of these here still have primer built up on the edge. So if I try to push that drill bit in, it doesn't want to go in. But if I put a little twisting force on it, it goes in. So keep that in mind when you're doing stuff like this. You're going to have paint and buildup in those holes. I know that when I've done other vehicles, I've gone back and gently drilled out those holes before I put, if they have a clip, any of those little clips in so that it doesn't knock the paint loose. So I'm going to make sure all of these holes are open so I don't have any problem with them. Now what I could do, in fact, and it may be beneficial, I could sand off this primer because I can already see I've chipped some of it. So I may just skim those over just to take some of that primer off. Because honestly, I really don't know what this primer is or the condition of it and how much is on there. So I'll probably end up stripping this whole thing anyway. Okay. I'm really just waiting for the compressor to quit running. So I am a little curious. I decided I'm going to take loose one of these letters if I can. Aha. So this does have those little inserts. Just wanted to verify that. So hopefully you can see right here the little metal inserts that pop in, and hopefully the new set of letters match the holes in this original deck lid. So let me just push that back in there for now. Doesn't really matter. Now what I want to do is make a template. So now that I have this exposed, I'm just going to take some tape and lay it all the way from one edge to the other. Now there's a couple ways you could do this. You can create a center line somewhere, like if you took a tape measure and you stretch that from one edge to the other to determine the width of this deck lid is 43 inches. So that's 21.5 to center, right? 21 and a half, 21 and a half, 43. Yeah. I always double check myself, right? So that also shows you this, the two holes that are behind this piece of tape. Now, the other thing you're going to run into is what do you do next? Well, I think what I want to do, because I always try to figure out a way to make it as accurate as I can. These holes I'm going to make in the tape. Now that I have those marked where they belong, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a whole nother stretch of tape from end to end. And another one all the way to the edge. So what that gives me is a reference. Basically, I can just take this piece, transfer it onto this deck lid, and that'll give me those holes. What I do want to do is make a couple layers of this. I don't need this to change shape on me at any point. Now, what I should be able to do, is transfer that to this one. Even though I do know I do have a center mark, which I will replicate once again. But remember, this is just my idea how to do this. There's probably you could probably buy a template already made if you wanted to. But since I have this existing deck lid, I'm going to take advantage of that. I feel pretty good about that. So I have laid the tape. Very happy with that. It's on the edge as it should be and center line. So now what I want to do is I'm going to take a center punch, a little snap punch. I don't want to just take a drill and start drilling because your drill could still walk. So I've peeled back just the edges of the tape just to make sure I have clearance, and I'm going to go as centered as I can in those holes. Okay, I'll finish the rest later. But now what I'm going to do is use a small drill bit, smaller than what it calls for. Plenty of play here. And the reason for that is I want to get that pilot hole where it needs to be. I can pull the tape back off, and then I can do some measuring if I wanted to verify where those were at. Or I could just leave the pilot hole there, and when I get the letters, I can put them up there and determine, are they exactly where I want them? Because although I trust my template, the letters may come into play. So by doing this and leaving those holes where they're at, then when I come back with the letters, I can set them on and look to see if I need to adjust. And if I do, I can take another bit and just kind of walk it in that direction, and then center drill it, or drill it again with the 1/8 inch. Hope that makes sense. It's just a way to keep everything from shifting or adjusting later if I need to. Because you can be as accurate as you want, but you can't always trust the other pieces. All right. Pull my template off. And now I have holes. Great. Let's move on. These are the deck lid. All right, I'm going to put the hinges on and test fit the deck lid itself. I have the old witness marks. I don't know that I'm going to trust those. Just going to kind of run these down gently. Well, that makes it easier, somewhat. Find the so you got minimal 4.5 adjustment. Just saying. All right, let me see. The strings are so crunchy. I just want to kind of see where I'm at. And snug these down a little. So what I'm showing you here is this side is sitting low. And in order to bring that up, you have to bring the hinge itself up. So closer. Little bit lower. That's looking better and better. I may end up taking a wood block. That moved it right there, just a little bit. I've taken a wood block before and just put it right there and boom, hit it with a hammer and flex stuff like that down. So this is really close. And I already knew that there was going to be a conflict on that side. I knew that when I first did the test fits, because this angle feels a little bit odd. This one's straight as can be. This is decent, but this is a little bit odd. And the thing is, you can't, you know, this could be from the stamping. It could be from this stamping. And it may end up that I adjust this slightly. I may split this open right here and push this out and tack weld it back in. And I mentioned that before with the previous test fit. Because, again, there's only so much you can do to get left and right. And I know you can flex the hinges some, but it may not be enough to make it stay. Yeah, I just can't, I don't know how well that shows up. I'm not going to be able to live with that. It's just too much. Whoops. Just too much right there. Yeah, it looks like it should. Yeah, I've got a little, it's tight on that extension. I may end up modifying it, slightly modifying the edge of that deck lid. Maybe. You know, the thing is, you can't change, well, you can, we all know that, but like, this piece fits one way, this piece fits one way, this piece fits one way, and you can fudge a little here and there, but the gap here is dead on. The measurements are on, so very minor, very minor. I'll figure something out. All right, so there's a look at the deck lid. Kill me sometimes. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I was filming with the GoPro previously, and it shut off. But I have footage from the regular camera, and that's what I'm going to be able to use to make parts of this video. However, I want to show you something. So I've adjusted this deck lid a lot. I've played with it, I've gotten this down more in the plane with the filler panel. And as I'm looking at it, you know, I've been fighting with the right side edge. So I put these extensions on, or loosely set them on, and I have a really good transition here, a little bit off here, which is not that big of a deal. And I noticed that the edge of the extension is tighter than this line on the top of the deck lid. That I'll have to deal with later. But what I have here, if I move this around just a little bit, I've got a decent gap right here. And then I come to this side, and as I mentioned previously, this doesn't feel right. I put the extension up, and I can get a really nice gap here, and I've got a bit of metal hanging out here. I'm like, well, do I really want to mess with the deck lid? Because the extension's fitting good, this gap is good. I think it's something to do with this. So let me show you what I think I found. And I'm going to use both cameras. Hopefully I can show you a good enough angle on this. Get both cameras running. What I did is I used my whatever you call it, I can't think of the name of this profile tool, and I put it on this side, and hopefully you can see that that is completely touching all contact points, even down into this little dip here. So that is the driver's side. Now if I come to the passenger side and flip this over, right? Put it on this one. What I find is there's a gap at the bottom. See how that's not making contact? What that tells me is this shape needs to go out. So I'm gonna have to cut this edge somewhere in here and push this out a little bit and then tack it back together, because that doesn't lie. That's just showing you that it's not making the contact that it needs, especially down here in the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do, make a cut. I like it. I feel much better about that gap now. All right, that's the end result of adjusting that edge. Now, again, there will be some filler added here to help smooth this out and make sure this corner is the match. You know, this is a rounded edge, and so I have to replicate that all the way through. I'm not going to be able to do it as well, you know, grinding and welding up, but now I'm very happy with this gap. I think it looks much better. There's still some tweaking I need to do to the deck lid. I will have to bring it up just a little bit here in this midsection, or this transition. It's a little low on the bottom where it meets the extension, but otherwise I'm happy with that. Alright, that'll be the end of this video. You know, I'm working my way around the car trying to get all the panels to fit the way they should, and it takes time, but that's okay. I want to make sure I have all the gaps right, and if I have to make adjustments during that process, I will. And as I mentioned, I did a welding segment that is on my Patreon page, so if you want to see more information on that and how I do welding and grinding, you can check that out as well. There is a link in the description below. You can just click on that link or any of the other links that I have in that description box down below, and it has links to various tools that I use and stuff like that. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would, give it a thumbs up, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.